Happy New Year, Joe. I'm glad you're in the race. You're the so-called establishment candidate, right? Status quo Joe. Not my words. But I want everyone to think what happened in 2016. Go back to the moment when you heard Donald Trump is elected president. I'm afraid, Joe. Hillary ran an unbeatable campaign. The media coverage, Russia, and sexism brought her down. And my question for you is, do you think that you're running a better campaign than Hillary right now? And if you would, clarify your comments from Monday about how you mentioned rape culture as a European problem, not an African or an Asian problem. Thanks.
Well, as you probably noticed, my staff had that report. That was someone who, in fact, rewrote my words. I didn't say that. Where's my staff? You have that line. The national press has gone out. Here's what I was talking about. I was talking about we have to deal with the culture of violence that exists in America. The culture of violence, particularly as it relates to women. And what I laid out in detail was, because I wrote the Violence Against Women Act, is how, in fact, it's not merely about, this didn't come from somewhere else, like the white supremacists. I don't know if you're part of them or you're against them. I'm not sure which, because you're, no, I got it. No, I understand. I just don't, I get unusual people show up at these things, okay? And no. Well, okay, that's for you to decide. Let me tell you why. Let me respond. And it points out that Biden opined that talking about English common law in the 1300s, that husbands were able to beat. I started off in saying, I said, did everybody know what the phrase rule of thumb means? Rule of thumb comes from the derivation of that is the late 1300s under English common law. That if you beat you're able to beat your wife because your wife was a chattel, just like the horse, the cow, the farm animal, for real. And so many women were dying that the court in the late 1300s in England said you could no longer beat your wife with a rod thicker than the circumference of your thumb. Okay? And I said, this doesn't come from any other culture. This comes from our English jurisprudential culture. Home, here. Well, I know. You want me to answer the question? Okay. And so I was saying that, and what they turned around and said, Joe Biden said, in effect, they said Joe Biden said that what the white supremacists argued, that we had no problem. Our basic English jurisprudential system is not the problem. The problem is those countries like Africa and Asia and those places, they're the reason why we have all these problems. So they turned it around to make it sound like that. They said, and by the way, the title of the article is in the Washington Post, is a deceptively edited video of Joe Biden signals what is coming. And that is that a whole bunch of lies. So the generic point I'm making here is that what has happened is that I know we're going to get into, whomever the nominee is of the Democratic Party, is going to have a plethora of lies told about him or her and misrepresentations. And this went on the internet, this edited article. It got retweeted by some press people, and then they realized it was edited to make it look like something not white supremacists. See, Biden's acknowledging that the problem here is all those folks, all those minority folks are the problem. And so, in essence, and so they corrected it. But you're going to see a lot more of it. You're going to see a lot more of not only my statements being taken out of context and lied about or altered. You're going to see whomever the Democratic nominee is, because that's how this guy operates. Now, whether or not I can win, I think we have to look at three things in my view, but it's for you to decide, not me. You're the ones that are going to be doing the voting. Number one, whomever we pick has to have a really good chance of being able to beat Donald Trump. And you got to decide who of us is best equipped and most likely to beat him. Not just based on what the polling says today, because that's not particularly relevant. Who is the candidate who is most likely to be able to stand up and is the antithesis of who Donald Trump is? One of the reasons I'm running, I think I am, but that's for you to decide. But secondly, it's not enough for that candidate to win. That candidate has to be able to help elect people in states we have to win in order to get a majority in the United States Senate. North Carolina, Georgia, Texas, Florida, where I beat Trump like a drum in most of those places, okay? No one else does. Pennsylvania, etc. So the question is, who do you think is the best person not only to be able to beat Trump, but bring along a democratically elected Senate and keep a Democratic House? Second thing is, I think we have to, in order to get the things done we have to do to restore all the harm he's done so far, is we have to have someone who has a record. Take a look at our record. Who has gotten big things done as the United States